What's poppin', players? Welcome to a Two Penny Games reaction / review to episode 1 of HBO's The Last of Us: When You're Lost in the Darkness. This episode was directed by Craig Mazin, written by Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, and stars Bella Ramsey, Pedro Pascal, and so on and so forth as Ellie and Joel, respectively. This episode aired January 15th, 2023. We just finished watching it. Who is we? I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friends and gaming cohorts. Say hello to the people. Connor, Elliott.
Hi, how are you doing again for the second time today?
They don't know that, Connor. And Phil
They don't,
Shoemaker.
but I do.
You got to keep the wall up. Hey, I'm Phil. What's up?
Hi, Phil. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into it right away, but first I want to talk spoiler-free real quick about our impressions. Gentlemen, I'm sorry, I'm dying to go first.
Go for it.
I am, as you two know, and as much of this audience knows, I am a Last of Us super fan. I fucking love The Last of Us. Both Part 1 and Part 2 are two of my favorite video games of all time. And I love it so much that I've played the first game twice in the last year. I played it in excitement for the remake, also for our video game book club, the Two Penny Game Club, which will have a new episode on Hades coming in the next week or two. And then I played the remake with my girlfriend. I just finished watching the first episode and I'm blown away. This is, I think, already, it doesn't matter how good the rest of the season is. This is already the best video game adaptation to ever happen by far, bar none. I think the cast is phenomenal. I think the writing is fantastic. I think the direction is so good. The elements that they add here and the things that they expand upon and the things that they change are so smart in every single way. From the small things like how the virus works to more subtle things like character motivations and how they change some of those to add more complexity or to give the audience more of an onboard to care about these characters. And the ways in which they change how events happen in small ways, I think leaves fans of the video game who know it intimately like me just as gripped and enthralled and on the edge of our seats like someone who is going in for the first time. I'm fucking in love with this show, and I can't wait for next week's episode. Connor, you were a little more skeptical during the whole marketing cycle of this, and I have not heard your impressions yet, so I'm dying to know how you feel.
This was a big disappointment. I was bored the entire way through, is what I would like to say.
You got me. You had me. I thought I was like,
I kind of was like just looking at you and like trying to like look in your eyes, even though like there's a camera right here. But I was like, I don't think Connor's telling the truth.
He just sold it. He sold it way better than he's ever sold anything like this before. So that was your best job doing that ever, and you've done it a lot.
Get the man an Oscar.
The thing that made me break was Tavin's shocked reaction that came across his face. He was like, "No, he's not gonna go." But jokes aside, it is nice to think something is possibly not going to be good, and then be proven that it's not going to be good, and feel that satisfaction in being right. But it is nice when a show actually does good, which this one did. Like you said, Tavin, they were able to, feed me enough stuff as a Last of Us fan. I'm not I'm not the super fan you are, but I think the first Last of Us is one of the greatest games ever made. I think the second one, while it isn't personally something that I enjoy all that much, I understand why it's so well liked, and I kind of dismiss a lot of the criticisms I hear about that game. But this one, it had nice little changes to the story that just made me surprised, and I was like, oh, that's nice, and sometimes they would just change how certain things played out from compared to the main game. Sometimes they would add things with extra scenes that give a little bit of background to things that happened in the base game, but never quite going away from it. So, as you said, it's perfectly adapted for fans of it, and it's perfectly adapted for anyone that just likes watching a good television show, because it's well acted all the way through. All of the performances so far have been great. It's got great effects. It's got a good use of music, good cinematography. It's just good across the board. It's something I'm really looking forward to watching. I mean, the first, definitely, I would say the first 30 minutes were the strongest parts of, well, the first 35 minutes really were the strongest parts of the show. Where I was, I had like a tightness in my stomach, anticipating what's going to happen. It really did a good job of building up the suspense of spoilers, the outbreak that happens. Some of you didn't know, that's what the Last of Us is about. It's about a infection. Crazy.
Oh no,
right?
no
Yeah.
way.
But it really did a good job on leading up to that part, rather than just starting as the game does, which kind of cuts out a lot of that stuff for good reason, because you have gameplay elements to actually take into consideration. This one does not, so they know that, and they're able to build upon things that are already pre-established in the original game. It's great. I really like it. I'll let Phil. I'm interested to see what he says
As someone who knows the story but has only played the first 2 hours of The Last of Us.
Yeah. So you saying that I know this part of this episode, I knew everything that happened. I knew all this stuff. As little as as little as I've actually played, I've gotten to like the Bill bit in my playthrough, Anyway, no, I thought this was phenomenal. I thoroughly enjoyed, because like I just said, it's the part that I played. So I knew everything. I knew everything that was going to happen. Like, like you guys have already said, oh my god! Like, even from before we saw the show, I was a big fan of the casting. Like, especially for our main two, Joel and Ellie. I love Pedro Pascal to death. He's a handsome motherfucker, and he looks a lot like Joel from the game, in my opinion. I think it's great casting. I think Bella Ramsey's doing a bang up job as Ellie. I'm also very much looking forward to where we're headed with this show. Maybe I'll find out how the game ends,
Or you can just play the game. It wouldn't take you long.
That's a joke. I already know how it ends. That's fine.
But that being said, I'm just curious, sorry to interject. Are you gonna play, now that you've seen the first episode, are you gonna play the rest of the game, or are you going to just let the show do the talking?
No.
All right.
Okay, great. Show over, fantastic. I was curious because to me, it's I have the thing of like, oh, I really like this thing. This is inspiring me to go do the other thing that's associated with it. So like, if I were in your position, I literally would be playing The Last of Us Part 1 right now.
Now,
I'd be like, all right, let me see what this is all about. Let me see what's going on.
No, I get that.
Yeah, and then I also, as a fan, I had so much joy experiencing this version of this story and how it's true to it, but how they take the time to explain things out a little more and to flesh things out a little more and to just put a little twist on things and so forth to keep me excited. This is one of the best adaptations I've ever seen, let alone video game adaptations. And yeah, there are key moments in the story that I'm excited to see more of. Specifically with, both of you have mentioned it before, specifically with Bill. I'm super, super excited to see how they tackle that. But diving in more to this episode and what plays out, man, that opening was cold.
Oh my god,
cold-blooded. That was with the
good.
TV talk. Oh, we're getting into spoilers now, by the way.
Yeah,
ladies
sorry.
and gentlemen. So
Real
if you
quick-
haven't
real
watched the
quick
episode, click away.
Before we get into this, I do want to say I texted my mom, and I was like, "Hey, you should definitely watch this show. It's on HBO. It's based on a video game that came out like 10 years ago." And I almost said it's like a post-apocalyptic survival thing, but I didn't. I was like, I want to preserve that. Because I was like, I think, let me get my quote here. I was like, I'm curious to hear what you'd think about it as someone who doesn't know anything about the games.
Yeah.
So
I'm very curious to know. Keep us updated on how that works, because
absolutely,
all my friends and family know what The Last of Us is.
Well, because they know you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. She said she'll look into it. I don't know exactly when she's gonna watch it. I know she does intend on watching it.
Yeah.
So I will get back to our series here, because obviously we're gonna be covering every episode. So
yeah. And then so let's dive into spoilers now. That intro was cold-blooded. I
Goddamn.
fucking loved it.
So good.
It was so good. I did think it was a little weird how the host was like, and we'll be right back. I'm like, that's a terrible note. Like, find a joke in there, bro. Like, I know you kind of can't, but like, dude.
He was trying to
He really was.
with him. He was like, you know, like the doctor was like, he was like, you know where LSD comes from, right? He was like, where do you get it?
That joke made me laugh really hard. I was like, that's a funny joke. But what's funny is like being in a post-pandemic and a post-COVID world, how many flashbacks this gave me just throughout the whole thing. What's funny is like they make the point of that talk show happened in what, the 80s or something like that?
68.
68, yeah. Yep. You can find people knew a pandemic was coming for decades. Like they knew. So the fact that that's implemented in this was nuts to me. It also allows, the audience to get an onboarding of what's about to happen and how it's about to happen. And like they explain the whole fungal thing, which Connor, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't do that in the game, at least not through dialogue. Like maybe in like some of the collectibles and things you pick up and you figure it out. But they don't explain that it's in dialogue. They don't explain that it's a fungal, like mushrooms adapting and so forth. And the way
they talk about spores and stuff. Like,
yeah, they call it spores, but they don't specifically say that, hey, this is a real thing that exists in real life.
Right.
Whereas in this, they specifically like they name it. They say, hey, the cordyceps, that's probably gonna do it. Amongst a bunch of other things. But they also give a reasoning for it. Which I never had thought of before, of like that being the one thing that's keeping the fungus from jumping to us, is they don't have a reason to, because they can't survive in our bodies right now. But if maybe they needed to adapt and evolve because the planet got a little warmer, I was like, that's fucking genius.
Yeah,
that's so
and then
fucking smart.
I loved the bit that they did towards the end of his like whole speech talking about mushrooms and if they did adapt and they would have to jump to humans, and then the guy was like, what do you think would happen if that does happen? It was like, we lose.
I love that, and I love the they would just puppeteer us. They would just infect all of us.
They wouldn't kill us.
They would need because then they would die too. And I loved that whole thing.
One of the I'm gonna go kind of into spoilers for the game as well. Phil, you obviously don't have any intention. Yeah.
No, I know. I know the story.
Yeah, fair enough. There's a conversation with what's his name, Tavin? One of the two brothers that you meet, Sam.
Sam and Henry.
Henry, yeah. There's a conversation in that game where Ellie is talking with Henry of, do these things know, like, are there people still in there? And they're just, behind, they're being controlled, right? But they're still alive. And, that was a conversation they had in the game. In this one, they make that point of saying, well, they don't want you to die. They keep you alive, which kind of adds to that whole conversation of what exactly happens when you get infected, and gives a even more darker spin to the whole entire scenario, which I thought was just, once again, some of those little things that they do to improve the show, using elements from the game, building on elements from the game that they didn't get to explore in the past game. It's just another good thing that makes the show better.
Yeah. I'm super into it. And then also, I'll just say, best animated intro since Netflix's Daredevil. That shit was fucking
really
fire. Good. With the way the cordyceps were growing up and turned into the city, and oh man, I thought it was fucking dope.
Yeah,
and
that was really good.
God, Connor, how great is it to hear the original theme?
It was honestly the whole entire music felt like it was ripped from the soundtrack of the last game.
Some of it straight up is.
I'm not surprised.
Like,
yeah, it seemed like it was different. I heard different renditions definitely, but I'm not surprised if there was just bits of the original soundtrack that I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
and it uses it well. It's another, like I said, from top to bottom, all of the elements are used very well. The music is one of them. They just simple scenes like starting out bits of a map, adding that nice acoustic guitar to the background of it just makes the whole theme and tone of The Last of Us get carried over into its adaptation. Very good.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. And again, and I think it just proves my point from last year that Uncharted movie would have been better if they used the Uncharted theme.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. They did. So sorry, I don't mean to like jump back to previous points, but did you watch like the in the coming weeks bit at the end?
I did
no.
not.
As soon as credits hit, I turned it off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they they play a bit where Ellie is like, does it make it harder to kill them knowing that they used to be people?
Oh, I have no.
Is like they say something. Yeah, she says something like that.
They have similar conversations in the game and so forth.
Yeah,
and, man, I loved how drawn out the opening days of the infection were. I loved that we sat with it. I mean, we only sat with it for a day, but
because it's like you just get that, it just builds that knot in your stomach, especially since you're like one of the people that already knows what's coming. It's like, man, when is it gonna happen?
When they introduced the neighbors as characters, that's when I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be really bad. And at first, I was sitting there, I was like, it's gonna be the husband or the woman in the wheelchair, and I just sat on it for a second. And right as they pulled away to like drop Sarah off at school, I was like, it's gonna be the woman in the wheelchair who can't move, and she's going to eat her family, and we're gonna see it. And sure enough. And oh my god, the scene where she's in the background, like out of focus, and she starts twitching,
like wiggling and shit.
And like the infection starts taking over. Oh my god, that was
creepy shit.
Scary.
And then when I'm drawing a blank on the daughter's name.
Sarah.
She's like walking away, and then it cuts to the dog looking at the lady in the wheelchair.
Oh, it's so good. And then when the dog jumping ahead a little bit, when the dog comes up and knocks on the window and shit, I was like, oh fuck, that's scary. And I was sitting there, I was like, is that dog infected? Like
that was my immediately thought too.
Dude, and I was sitting there in the games. I was trying to think of, in the games, there's no infected dogs, right? There's no infected dogs. No. Are there going to be infected dogs here?
There's no animals that are infected in that in the original.
No, not in the games. No. But here I was like, they could. I don't see.
They definitely could. Yeah. Why not?
The grandma opening her mouth in that like silent mode was like,
and it was just the little creaks. The little creaks she get like.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good. At
I was
first,
expecting.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say before she leaves, I was expecting when she came back, I was like, the wheelchair's gonna be empty. The wheelchair's gonna be empty.
It was.
I know, but not. I mean, when she was leaving. When she was leaving the.
House. I see.
Because we cut away. It was before the dog was looking at.
Yeah. I'm glad they waited. I think their reveal was good.
Yes.
I watched it with my girlfriend. She said she liked the opening better in the game. How do you guys feel in comparison?
I can see that being more liked. I mean, I can't really like comparing them. I don't think one does like particularly better than the other.
Yeah.
But if I was told to make a decision, I would say the game, just because it's just, even without being even with my knowledge of what happens in the first game, I think the game, just looking at it from a narrow perspective, you are less prepared for what's going to happen in the game than you would be in the show, because the show is like so clear something's wrong leading up to it.
Yeah, it's just because we spend way more time there.
Yeah, and Last of Us 1 has just a calm moment to it when it opens up. It's
and they take the time to explain what's happening, because we probably won't get any type of explanation later. Whereas in the game, we have long segments where our characters are walking through the woods, and we have time. And I'm sure we're gonna get plenty of long walking segments, but instead of world building, even though I'm sure there will be some, instead of world building, I'm sure it'll be character building, and it'll be showing how these characters connected and grow.
Did you guys?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you guys notice that she's wearing the same shirt?
Oh, Sarah from the game? Yeah. I noticed that, but then I was like, why isn't Ellie wearing the same shirt? But I was like, oh, we'll probably see that shirt later. So, I'll say I don't have a lot of critiques here with this show. I think it was pulled off excellently. There's one thing, most of my critiques are probably just preference or what I personally would have done if I was creating, but that's a thing that you can't control. The one thing that I'm like, oh, they should have done this, like, I think it's a legitimate critique, is I wish we sat in the moment of Sarah's death longer. I think we cut to black just a little too soon. Specifically, and this might be my video game bias speaking, the moment of Joel holding her and going, don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, kid. Don't do it. That's not there.
That's true.
Did Joel even realize she died?
Yeah, it was.
Tommy definitely did.
That was a part that was done better in the game.
I think it was. Well, the build-up was good, and I even liked how we cut away and she was like, and we cut away and we cut back and she was gone. I liked that because even Joel's not noticing that, so we don't get to see that either. I like that. Whereas in the video game, they very much close up on her face. She's dead. You
literally like see like
you see the light leave her eyes. I like this in the sense of like cutting away and cutting back and she's gone because we don't get to see that because Joel didn't get to see that in this version. But like, and it's hard because I looked away at my girlfriend to see how she was reacting to the scene, and then I looked back and we cut to black, and I was like, oh fuck! But
one thing that I really liked about this version is I think it did a better job of transitioning us from, hey, this opening part is Sarah's the protagonist, and then it's like, oh, now Joel's the protagonist because that's where we have that cutaway, and then it goes back to Joel, and it's like, oh, it's basically like transferring the like the center of the show for me. That's at least what I got from it.
You think that was better here?
No, as far as I think the transition from like
from character to character.
Yes. I like that one. I like that better.
Interesting. I disagree because the game does the game thing of like you're playing as this character and it's centered on this character, and then the camera like moves behind Joel and you're like, oh, you're Joel now. Like now it's Joel's story.
You mean like when you pick her up out of the car?
Yeah. Whereas here, I feel like it stayed on Sarah literally from the opening moments all the way to the blackout, and then we cut to some random kid.
Okay.
So I feel like there wasn't a clear enough transition into Joel, but I didn't notice. If I was just watching a television, it's just in direct comparison of this specific note.
Okay, I see where you're coming from there. Yeah. I can get you. I see what you're saying.
But at the same time, I liked that scene with that kid when we just skipped 20 years.
Yes. Oh my god. Before we get there, can we talk about the misdirect? We're like how we know what happens with the car crash. Yeah, when they pull through that stop sign, I'm like, okay, here comes the truck, and then we see the truck, but it just stops and honks. I was like, okay,
and like,
so so it's like, okay, so how are we getting in the crash? Where's the accident coming? And then the fucking plane comes down,
dude. The plane scared the shit out of me because whatever hit the truck, I thought went through the glass and hit Sarah. So I was like, they have to kill Sarah the same way. They have to. Like that story beat needs to happen that way or else it doesn't work as well. So I was like, if they killed her in this car crash, I'm going to be mad. And thankfully they didn't. Right. But it was just a moment of like momentary fear that only me as a player of the game would feel.
Yeah. Because so what was happening for me is like, so I was kind of being an asshole. I was like, oh yeah, that's this bit ripped straight from the game. Like where they're like, there's like the bit where they're on the couch, and then there's the bit where they're driving with Tommy, and like you see the cop cars go by and they're at their crossroads, and then you have the bit where they're driving by the barn that's on fire, and it's almost like word for word they're doing all the same beats. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, here it comes.
Oh, once they get in the car, it's damn near exactly the same. Some of the dialogue is different, but it's damn near the same.
Yeah.
Oh well, they do drive completely differently, which was a little interesting part.
Going into the grass.
Yeah. It's a different. Yeah.
Which I like, but that makes sense. It makes sense to do that because if you're in a truck, you're gonna just go off road.
Yeah.
In the game, it's weird that they turn around and like stay on the road. But it's a video game, so of course they can't. There's limitations, especially from a decade ago. I liked. This is a small note that Phil you wouldn't have picked up on, but Connor, the DVD, the little like knockoff Twilight thing that they have of like the Teen Wolf, whatever it's called. I like that they introduced that here and that they directly connected it to Sarah this time.
I know.
Phil, in the game, it's one of the city walking segments where you're just walking and you see a poster and Ellie asks, yo, what's up with that? Does he like eat her in the end? And Joel goes, no, he doesn't eat her in the end. It's just some dumb teen movie.
You're talking about the DVD that they're watching on the couch?
Mm-hmm. That was different. That was a gun.
That's a different movie.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not about vampires. It's like an action movie that Joel likes.
I thought it was like some werewolf movie because I thought Ellie or Sarah
liked it. It was like an action movie that Joel likes.
Oh, okay.
I think they do reference that in the game though later, like a different segment.
In the second game, they have a conversation about how Joel likes action movies.
Yeah, because Joel's all excited about it. He's like, oh, this one's got all the bonus features.
Oh, I thought it was Sarah who was excited. Okay.
No.
I misread that scene entirely then. Okay.
No, because she was like, yeah, pop it in while it's still your birthday.
Last of Us super fan.
I thought it was Sarah was Connor. I thought it was Sarah was like, yeah, it's your birthday, but we're gonna watch my movie.
No.
because you get. I also like how they paint Joel is not a great dad. Like he's
Right.
trying his best, but he does not have his shit together at all. Which like there's an element of that in the game, but they have no time to expand upon that. And I like what they did here. I like all of the little small things that they did.
I liked it. It the opening sequence definitely. It felt like 2003.
Yeah.
They did a good job of painting it as 2003.
The George W. Bush, when shit pops off, she goes, "Is it terrorists?"
Yeah.
Because we're fresh off of 9/11, so of course.
Yeah, I love the fucking bumper sticker on the truck, Desert Storm. Yeah.
I love the when we cut ahead 20 years, there's a dude wearing an Al Gore t-shirt.
I didn't even see that. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a dude wearing an Al Gore t-shirt. I'm like, that's fucking funny.
It is a period piece.
Yeah, right? Fuck, man. Yeah, I really liked the intro. When our old lady starts eating her family, and we cut, and it's the nurse character or whatever, and she like or the daughter or whatever her name is, or whatever she was, she's getting eaten, and then the lady looks up. Are those tendrils coming out of the mouth, or is it hair?
Hair.
It was tendrils.
I thought it was hair at first,
No,
but then
it was
all of
tendrils,
the other ones
'cause they
had
moved.
tendrils coming out.
Yeah, it was tendrils because they moved. It was almost like the flood.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Connor, I was with you at first. I thought it was hair, which I was like, that's a fucking scary detail. But then every other one had tendrils, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess it was tendrils.
That bit where sorry, go ahead, Connor.
Oh, I just don't remember any of the other ones having tendrils.
Oh no, they all had them.
They do. It's not as pronounced. I think the tendrils come in and out.
Yeah.
I think it's
there
like
was that.
if you're eating, like the tendrils come out and either like
because
infect
that's
the blood
that's the
or
thing that's eating. It's not the mouth. It's the
oh,
things.
you're right, because they're not chewing.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like the little straws and they're like sucking the nutrients out.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, that's interesting.
But that bit where Joel is carrying Sarah in the intro, and they go into that alleyway, and there's all those fucking things there's all the infected that are like eating the bodies, and that one that just fucking jerks up real fast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me and Ash were like, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I'll say the runners in this aren't working for me 100%.
Really?
I find them creepier in the game. It just feels a little too. It feels a little too zombie for me, which I understand. Like, I understand they are zombies. Like, I get it. Conceptually, it's the same idea. It's just in the game, you get the feeling that the human is still alive and that they're in pain, like in constant pain, and then their brain has just been diminished to this basic need to eat, and that's it. Whereas in this, it feels like the fungus has taken over, and it's no longer the human; it is just the fungus now.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were just talking about the running aspect, the actual running.
The running aspect does look a little goofy too, I think. But
For me, I thought you were gonna say this, but you stopped at zombie. For me, it's very Zombie Land, like the way that they like run,
exactly,
like
100%. Yeah. Like it's that, and I don't know. It's just something about the movements. It's something about the noises they make. It's something about the way that the actors are portraying the infection on their face. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel like a husk still alive and in pain. It feels like an alien that has taken over. It feels like body snatchers, you know?
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. I
agree
see where
with
you're coming from there. Yeah.
Now, I understand why they've made this choice, but and really it's just video game bias and preference that's talking here. But yeah, I just kind of, and this is going to be the experience through the whole thing, where it's like, as a fan, I'm going to be sitting here, I'm going to be like, oh, they changed that. I like that. Or, oh, they changed that. Okay, sure, it's good, it's cool, but I liked it better in the game. Another example of that is Robert. Specifically how they deal with that character, and this also feeds, I have a little bit of a criticism about Tess as well. How they deal with Robert in the game, I like more. I like that our guys get to kill him. I like that Tess kill. That's a really fucking stupid idea, and then shoots him. Like, I like that, and I think it feeds into. I have an overall critique of Tess where Tess is a little softer here.
Yeah, I got the same feeling. I was like, she doesn't feel as like badass.
Yeah, she's still
Like
badass.
it's
It's
there.
there, and you
It's
know
not as
she'll do some.
pronounced.
I love her intro. I loved her intro of
Oh
like
yeah.
where she's like, "Man, I'm gonna let this go. Let me go," and you know she's
Nope.
bullshit. She's gonna come back with her friend, and they're gonna fuck you up. I just kind of wish we saw them go and fuck them up. Like, but even in how Tess handles that scene of when she comes back beat up, um, I like the bluntness that the actor in the game has. I like the no bullshit, straight to the point. Whereas
Yeah.
this one has more tact, and because this version of Joel is more hot-headed, she needs to have that tact in order to keep him straight and narrow. But I just have a preference of how it was handled in the game more. Now, granted, the character is that way in the game because they can't have these long, drawn-out scenes of these two characters talking together. They need to get the player back on the sticks. Whereas here, we need to flush out these motivations so that the audience believes what's happening. Another example of that is giving Joel a better motivation to take Ellie across the country. In the game, it's just, hey, we're gonna get paid, we're gonna get weapons, we're gonna sell them and shit, and we're gonna you know get a bunch of ration cards or whatever.
Now it's he hasn't heard from Tommy in 3 weeks, and he needs to find Tommy.
This is one of the changes that I think is really smart and is better here. Because again, like the motivation for the player to continue to the next scene is to shoot the next guy in the face, or to get to the next clicker encounter, or to just get to the next cutscene. Here, as an audience member watching the TV show, you need more to be on the same page as Joel, and this provides that, and I like that a lot.
You see, I really, on the outset, I don't, but for later on. Okay, so here's my issue with that.
Go ahead.
As it stands right now, that is a way better motivation for why they're going on this whole deal. But I think it overall works better how it's done in the game, because in the game we see Joel and Tess as just these two, basically scumbags. Like, you understand why they're doing what they're doing, but they're scumbags. They
shitty people,
deal drugs. Yeah, they're shitty people.
Surviving.
But, as you guys know, Ellie's, the whole point is to get her to the Firefly so they can find a cure for the infection. And part of the whole, part of Tess's character, and it rubs off onto Joel, is that she wants to do this because, they've been, living these horrible lives, doing all these things, basically living for nothing for years now, just trying to survive. But now they actually have a goal, something they can actually do. Worthwhile.
Like an actual reason to live.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the game, showing that the story of these guys just trying to get their next, get
meal.
their meal, not even a meal, just ticket card.
Score.
Yeah, actually meals. Whatever. What were they getting in the game? In the game,
they're just getting weapons.
Yeah, it's literally just, hey, we're gonna get these big ass guns.
It's a lot more selfish, and I think it kind of feeds into the whole idea of them just being these shells of human beings, of empathetic human beings. But
Connor, how good is it gonna be when this is 9 episodes in, so when we're 5 episodes deep and we're thinking this whole time that Tommy's in trouble, and spoilers, but it's actually reversed and Tommy is just sick of Joel's shit and is cutting him off. How good is that moment gonna be? You know what I'm saying? Huh?
Is that what? Oh, I see. Yeah, if that's the way they go with it. Because you see, my thought when they didn't get contact, I thought it's because the area they were staying at loses power, like it does in the game. When you go there and they're like, oh, power's been out, we got attacked.
Oh, well, they don't explain it in this episode. Tommy's just been dark for 3 weeks and we don't know why. Joel is assuming Tommy's in trouble or Tommy is dead and he wants to go find his brother.
Yeah.
In reality, I assume if they keep Tommy's character the same they even hint at it that Marlene drove a wedge between Joel and Tommy, because in the game she did as well. And Tommy's always been a little more optimistic as a character than Joel has. And we're going to get however many episodes deep and we're going to find Tommy and Tommy's going to be like, fuck you. No, hell no. You're a piece of shit. You're a human. You're a piece of scum. And you made me do dark and horrible things, and I hate myself because of it and because of you. Fuck off. And I think that's going to play way better than how their relationship is presented in the games, even though I think their relationship in the games is good too.
If that's how they go about it, yeah, it'll definitely be better. I think that just remains to be seen until we get that part.
Did you guys notice
that?
Nice
if they do, though.
Sorry, did you guys notice that Marlene is played by the same actress?
I knew that going into it, and I was very happy about that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Very cool.
She looked very similar. I was like, oh, I got a good casting
Well,
choice.
so when they even I think they even mentioned this in the like cast talk back bit
Yeah, the
that's at
talk
the end
back
of
after,
every
yeah.
HBO show.
I'm gonna go watch this when we're done recording.
Yeah, it's not bad. She talks about how she auditioned for it, and she's like, and now that I'm auditioning for the HBO show, I feel like I've aged into the character more. Like she, because you know, it was 10 years ago, so she was a lot younger. So I think she's more, you know.
Speaking of age, I found it interesting that they put an exact age on Joel.
Oh yeah,
They did. He turned 36 in the beginning, and he's 56 now. Which, like, that makes sense. That he looks about 50s in the game. You know.
I don't think Pedro Pascal looks that old, but
I don't either. But you know, how old is he? Someone look that up for me.
oh, I got it.
Yeah. Connor, how did you feel about? I mean, I guess they didn't do it all the way, but they showed a little more of the intimacy between Tess and Joel.
He's 47.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would have guessed like maybe 42.
Same age, right?
for him.
I would have put him somewhere in the 40s.
Good for him.
He's making money. He's gonna look good, you know.
True.
But yeah, when she came back and they slept in the same bed, I didn't know how to feel about that.
I think it was nicer because it kind of emphasized the relationship they have, which seemed to be possibly what they had going on in the game. As clear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think
makes
there's some
sense.
subtext there in the games that kind of shows that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely. I like how subtle it is in the game, and this one I think presented it just a little too much.
I mean, all she did was like go like big spoon him and put her hand on his chest.
Yeah,
That's all-
and
that's
granted,
all
like
she
if
did.
they're just two partners holding up and you know being of the opposite sex, yeah, they're gonna do that at some point.
Yeah.
Not for sexual reasons, but just for comfort.
it's just gratification at that point, you know.
Yeah, or just human connection, you know,
Yeah.
of some kind. And it just shows that these two have that connection, but I think it implied a little more romance than what is there in the games.
I didn't really
That's
get
true.
that much romance.
I'm in agreement with Phil that I didn't get too much. It wasn't overemphasized, but it definitely was more subtle in the game overall. Like I said, I wouldn't go so far as to say it was too forceful with it, but I do prefer the way the game did it, where you got that sense, but it wasn't.
There's 2 or 3 lines that get let go, and you know, so there's
So, sorry, real quick, back on the topic of Robert and like them going to get to Robert, right? Are we not gonna have spores in this show?
No, we're not. They jumped ahead before the show aired, and they jumped ahead of this. It's not going to be spores. It's tendrils. It's tentacle tendril things. Because
there was that guy in the office that was like on the wall, kind of like how it is in the game.
Yeah, but they're
And
fine.
That's
There's
when
no
they put the
masks.
mask on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because it doesn't make spores don't make sense in a real life scenario. It makes it to where like you start questioning of like, well, once the spores get outside, doesn't everyone get infected? Like, because the spores are in open air, so they can go anywhere.
I think. Well, I don't know. I feel like for it made sense to me. I mean, it's probably just video game.
It's
thing,
video game thinking.
but it's like when you think about it, and it's just like in an enclosed space like that, then it would be
yes,
like
but not
overpopulated with spores.
not every clicker is going to die in enclosed spaces.
Sure, but then they would like spread out and be more diluted.
Yeah, that's
Would
why
you
I'm of the same thought.
That was always the logic I had in the games.
That's where I think
when
of
you're
it, yeah.
outside, you're safe because it dilutes and it goes up into the air or whatever, and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Whereas in enclosed spaces, it's so that was my logic always in the games. But I
It's
think
more concentrated indoors.
I think there's already so much like stretching like of
Wouldn't play well in a show. You know,
yeah, they just didn't want didn't want that to be a conversation. You know,
Gotcha.
you know, because there's always, you know, in before Rogue One, the joke of A New Hope was, why did someone build a hole that leads straight to the reactor? That doesn't make any sense. They didn't want someone to go, well, wouldn't the spores infect you once you're outside? Yada yada. Like they just didn't.
You see,
They didn't want that.
I get that. My issue with it is from a stylistic sense. Spores are way more interesting and unique than tendrils.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a thing that is about fungus going into people's minds and changing them into zombie-like beings. So I
Yeah.
think that kind of argument, I get what they're thinking, but I think that's kind of a wrong way to think.
It
when you
plays with
just
my
dismiss-
critiques of it plays with my critique of I don't like how the runners move in this, like, and I don't like how they behave.
Yeah. I also, I mean, it's the same vein, but I also like the bit in the game, where I think it's like right after Tess sacrifices herself, and you and Ellie go into the sewers, and then Joel's like, "You're okay breathing the shit?"
Yeah, that's another thing. We're never gonna have another.
Yeah.
And there's other moments in the games, in part 1 and in part 2, where Ellie breathing in spores and being okay is important, to the scene. And now we're gonna have to change those scenes or get rid of them entirely, to accommodate for that. One also really small, really nerdy thing is the changing of the year, because in the games, Outbreak Day is 2013 when the game came out, and then we're in 2033. In this, they pulled it back 10 years so that we're in the same year as the present day when the main of the crux of the story is happening. There's a song that's important in Last of Us Part 2. That song doesn't exist in the TV show's world. So we're either A, gonna have to find another song, or B, cut that entirely. And that's a little heartbreaking to me.
Which was it? Do you remember?
The song, the song of Last of Us Part 2.
If I ever were to lose you.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that song comes out in some fashion in 2013.
Okay.
So it just doesn't exist in the TV world. So that's a nerdy thing. They'll fix it, or they'll figure something else out. Or
why is that? Why does it not exist?
Because the song wasn't written yet. The song came out in 2013.
Oh, right.
The
Okay.
infection in the show happens in 2013.
No, yeah. For some reason I was thinking like it would make more sense. Hey, what's up, Fergus?
Shout out.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So
For some reason, my brain didn't click
They'll
there.
just supplement it with something else, or there's plenty of songs about not wanting to lose your loved ones or whatever.
No, Joel wrote that song.
What else did we? I loved everything Marlene was doing in the show. I love the expansion of that character is so fantastic. It's almost one for one. Having the same actor helps a lot. But I loved, seeing the Fireflies, seeing sort of how their systems work. How,
oh my god, the bit where Tess is talking to that one dude, and then Joel's just hanging out in the background, and then there's that guy who's like, "Hey, if you ever feel lost in the dark, if you tell me to look for the light, I'm gonna break your fucking jaw." Or he's like, "Don't say fucking, tell me to look for the light, I'm gonna break your jaw."
I was like, man, it's like every time some Bible thumper walks up to me while I'm bartending, and I'm like, motherfucker, I do not care about Jesus right now. Like, I'm trying to serve drinks. What do you want?
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved seeing how much the Fireflies are struggling from the Firefly perspective. You get it from Joel's perspective in the game, where he even talks to Marlene and goes, "You guys are really struggling, huh?" And she goes, "It's been a hard couple of weeks." In the game and in here. But here we see it, where Marlene has that line of like, "This isn't a rebellion. Like, we're just noise. Like, we're just getting what did she say? Well, we're spray paint."
Yeah.
And I'm like, or graffiti or whatever she says. And I was like, that's good. I like this.
Which, by the way, it seems from a logistical standpoint that the correct course of action in this scenario would be to gather all your forces into one combined group and then take a federal a zone one by one, rather than be spread out as they were. It seems like that would be a lot more efficient tactic and use of their forces.
Are you being serious, or are you fucking around?
I mean, in Syria, I tried to sound stupid.
Because I was like, that's a really dumb idea. That's not how guerrilla-style warfare works at all, Connor.
Well, I mean, that is kind of a smart idea in the sense of their...
Yeah, you want to take them over from the inside out.
And then I tried to cut something else because he got interrupted, but I got nothing. But no, I'm just really happy with the show, man. Also, the camera work, the lighting is really fucking good. The final the cop character, the corrupted cop that he's like drug dealing with and shit, and how that comes in at the end. I loved that final scene so fucking much.
Yeah, it was good.
100%. I like that scene so much more than the original game. Because it works on so many different levels where they tried to do it in the game, where in the game it's Ellie just stabs him real quick and even has a line of like, fuck, I thought we were going to hold them up or something. But Tess and Joel just shoot the soldiers or whatever, and then they like move on. And then they have that conversation about the infection or whatever.
Yeah, in this one, it's fucking the guy's pointing a gun. There's a little girl behind him. PTSD triggers. Fucking knocks
nuts.
his ass down.
And it works on so many different levels, is where we still see how traumatized Joel is. We see how brutal this world is, how brutal our main character is, and most importantly, Ellie immediately understands what her new caretakers are capable of, and she's scared of them now.
I mean, there's even that bit where Marlene is like she's kind of talking Joel and Tess up about like, hey, I know what you're capable of, and then Ella's like, what are they capable of?
Yeah, that's the heap and then the trigger, like that's the setup and the payoff. Like, oh fuck, these guys can do some fucked up shit.
Yep.
And
as we see in the games as well, and we will see in this show.
I guess to play into my critique of them not killing Robert, this plays into that, where now because if we show them killing Robert, we know that they're fucked up people and they'll do fucked up shit. But we let that linger just a little longer until we get to this moment. So I guess shut the fuck up, Tavin. These guys know what they're talking about.
They did a good job of it, that's for sure.
I loved Tess's when she picks up the thing, Joel, like, and how quickly they had to get out of that moment.
Joel.
Yeah, I loved it. Every part of it, I thought it was fantastic. Did they reveal that Ellie is the cure a little too early? I think they might have revealed that a little too early.
I mean,
but I don't. The thing is, I don't think that. Yeah, because I guess they just kind of reverse it to where instead of like us having to put together that's why she's going there, it's after. It's like, oh, in the game it's, hey, take her here and then this is why, but in the show it's, this is why, take her here. So it's, we have the bit where I guess what are they like on, they're like, they were on the radio with somebody, be like, hey, yeah, send her here, we'll find the cure somehow.
Yeah.
And then they kind of do the bit where she's showing her old bites to Tess like really fast, because like we have to get out of that situation faster.
That seems very rough.
Yeah, that whole scene plays so much faster because we got to go faster.
And I felt like you didn't. It was harder to hear like what all she was saying. Like I knew what she was saying, but I feel like it was harder to hear that she was like, "Hey, this is from 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks, yeah.
No one's lived past a day."
Yeah.
I
also loved, I don't know if this is in the games or not, or if it's different here, the poster breaking down how fast the infection spreads.
Oh, yeah, I like that a lot.
And how, I don't think it's ever been said in the games, but where you get bit matters.
Because because the cordyceps are trying to get to the brain, so the closer you are to the brain, the quicker it's going to go.
Yeah. I don't know if that's in the game or not, but it was really cool to see. Where you if you get hit anywhere in the upper area, you got like 15 minutes, bro, and then you're fucked. Whereas like if you get bit in the foot, you have like a day.
Yeah, a little under a day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it said 20. I think it said 20 to 22 hours, something like that.
That's interesting. That's really fascinating that plays that way. I like that.
Like going way back to, I mean, same scene, but like the bit where obviously the kid is infected, and he's like, "What if I told you we can give you this medicine and you'll be better?" And it's like, but we as the audience, we know
immediately, and you're like,
just trying to make him feel better.
Fuck, man. It was weird that Joel picks the kid up out of the truck to me.
Why?
Because the woman who's working with him goes, I can't do it. And you're meant to infer that she lost a kid or something. We just came out of Joel losing his kid, and then now he has to pick up this dead kid.
But I think that's a good idea of like, he's trying his best not to think about it anymore, so he's like trying to separate himself from it.
Sure.
And so I feel like we're probably going to see later on, as he grows closer to Ellie, that more of that stuff's going to come up. I think he's kind of buried it. at the moment, like within himself. He's repressed it a little
Ellie's
bit.
digging it up. You even
think
see that in the moment where he's
Yes,
guarding her and
with the
it
PTSD trigger.
It's
Yeah.
already starting.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I see that making sense as well. But at the time was seeing that scene, the way that I saw it is that, once again, he's a guy who's willing to do a lot of messed up things. We saw him abandon the family. We saw him, beat a guy to death. We know he does worse things in the game. He's lost a lot of his humanity. So the way I saw it was that
I can't wait for that interrogation scene in Winter.
Yes,
I can't wait.
I know. But it seems like he's just lost his humanity, and he just, a dead kid. It's like, what? He doesn't care. He's used to that by now. You even see that in the way he treats Ellie. He doesn't treat her as a kid. He treats her as any other person that might be a threat to him. He's just lost that aspect of his humanity. And here we saw a moment of this other woman who's not like Joel, because most people aren't like Joel, and he just picks her up and just, that's it. Burning bodies. It's just another day.
Okay.
It could be right either way.
I concede my point. I guess I just thought it was weird that the juxtaposition of dead kid, literally right next to each other.
Yeah.
I guess I just thought the
a little
right
jarring.
Yeah, it was a little jarring, but I think you guys are right. That's what the scene was meant to play as. Is there anything else we want to touch on before we sign out here, gentlemen?
We've talked at pretty length for about this episode.
We've done a lot of it. There's not much left,
One thing, I will eat my words, because one of the bigger worries I had, like I said, when I first started this, before it came out, when I would see the trailers and whatnot, I was like, iffy on certain things. One of the things was like a moment from Ellie from the trailer that I was like, that's weird. Made me think that she might not be like Ellie is in the game. But that was cleared up in the first scene that she was introduced. I was like, okay, never mind, we're good here.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, good, nice. So,
eight.
Words on that one.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I loved it. I don't understand how she was able to figure out that B/F meant Bill and Frank.
Yeah.
The like 70s equals this, 60s equals this, 80s equals that. Yeah. Like, that makes sense. B/F equals Bill and Frank.
Yeah, I don't know how she got that either.
I think she heard them say their name because they said Joel
through the door. You think
their names? At some point, I think
I had the subtitles on. They were just talking about what path they needed to take going forward.
I thought they said something about. I know they said something about Bill and Frank before that. I just don't know if Ellie was there to hear.
Joel mentions somebody he gets his stuff from, and a fan is meant to infer that is Bill.
Yeah, but they don't mention it by name to my
yeah, I don't recall them ever saying the name Bill before. So and then the thing at the end with the radio, we're meant to assume that's Bill and that's Bill and Frank on the other side of the radio.
That's them getting like the attack happening on them
on them or whatever.
Yeah,
something. So the entire relationship of Bill and Frank is going to be different in this show.
Yeah,
and
because we're going to see both of them at the same time.
I don't know if we're gonna get there and they're both gonna be dead, or if only Frank's gonna be dead. Or
there's no way. There's Bill is still gonna be in the show. He's in a lot of like the material.
And then you think we're just gonna get flashbacks showing Frank off?
I think.
Oh, so I think I heard something, which was
they've said Frank has a bigger part in this show. They've said that already.
You see, what I've heard is that Bill and Frank have a whole entire episode.
Yeah. Well, my thing is it a flashback?
Oh, I'm assuming it is. I'm pretty confident it is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that means that entire level of the game is going to be, in terms of like Joel and Ellie, is going to be shrunk down?
Like
we're not going to get as much screen time of Joel and Ellie in that town?
I think we'll get pretty good amounts. I don't know.
Interesting. Because obviously the balance of pacing is going to be different here as opposed to the game, because there's not going to be as many action sequences, and there's going to be scenes of them walking and talking more, and then a couple of action sequences. But where in the game you're you're shooting something every 5 minutes. Here it'll be like you'll shoot something once or twice an episode. So it's going to be a lot more talking. So they flush that out with more scenes.
Yeah.
I'm just curious as to what the balance is going to be now. What episode I would have thought where we ended this episode would be the end of episode 2 or even 3.
Oh, no, I thought it was actually going to go further. I thought maybe it was going to, maybe not all the way further.
I thought we were ending the first episode with Sarah's death. I thought that was
no way.
So for it to be closer to the beginning, I was grateful for. and to have more setup for the actual story was nice. It's just we got a lot more than what I was expecting. Like we even got our 3 characters traveling together, which is not what I was expecting.
What I thought, I think my initial, if I remember what my initial thoughts were before actually seeing the show, I thought we were going to end episode 1 with them all like leaving like before they know that she's actually infected. Like I thought it was going to be like maybe like 10 minutes before the episode actually ended.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be something like that, but I knew it was going to be around there.
Yeah. It was as soon as we got out, as soon as we started playing that scene of them at night in the rain and everything, I was like, oh, we're going to end with her, with the reveal of her being infected. Okay, that makes sense.
Did you guys see the what I assumed to be a clicker on like the roof of one of the buildings?
Missed that.
Like right before the end.
Missed that.
It's like as we're panning up to like the 2 buildings that are like kind of collapsed on each other. There's like
I love that we got that. Oh my god, that was something we didn't need to have, and I'm so glad it's there.
There was like I assume it's a clicker because it's like just making a bunch of like noise like the screechy noise. And it's like on a roof, and like you can see the lightning goes and it's like raining, and it like shrieks, and then it cuts to black. So
I'm so excited for the rest of the show, guys. I'm really fucking excited. This is
it's gonna be good.
So good. And
do we think all the episodes are going to be around this runtime, or do you think this was just front loaded like super heavy?
No, I've seen the runtime for the first 3. This one I think is the longest of the 3. The next one is like only like 50 minutes, and the third one is somewhere in the middle. So there's not like a set runtime, but you know we're hitting 45 to an hour and a half, somewhere in there.
Okay.
So, bit long.
Yeah. Bit long. No, I for me it went by super fucking fast. Like I started right at 8 p.m. and like 8:01, 8:02. I because me and Ash were watching Grey's Anatomy right before.
Yeah.
And like right as soon as the credits started rolling on Grey's, I was like, switch it to HBO Max. Here we go.
Right now we gotta go.
We're going.
I liked the I guess this is just where I'm pacing the show with the pacing of the game. So when Sarah dies and we're 30 minutes into the show and I check the time and we have an hour left, I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck is about to happen for this next hour? Because like, where are we gonna end this first episode? Because I again, like I thought the first episode was the ending with Sarah dying. But I understand we actually need to onboard the audience with the Ellie Joel relationship first.
Yeah.
They're just so smart. I think everything they've done with this show is so smart. Like from adaptation to just being a blind viewer. I think the show works, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that The Last of Us works. But you could easily fuck it up, or it could easily be a great video game story, but just an okay TV story. And the fact that they're able to make it a great TV story as well, at least with this first episode, it speaks to how good the writing is. Now, it being heralded by Craig Mazin of Chernobyl and Neil Druckmann, who made the first 2 games, it makes sense that it's this good. But
yeah, can I ask a quick question? As someone who has not like actually played through the game, so I didn't get a whole lot of like side dialogue and stuff. There was a bit on the like actor like kind of cast and like crew talkback segment where Craig Mazin talks about Ellie, and kind of what her relationship with Joel is going to be like. Or at least he kind of hints at it. And I'm worried in the games, is Ellie kind of a fucking weirdo who's into like who not necessarily into, who's kind of like gets kind of like a rush from killing?
No way.
Okay,
No.
so there was something that Craig Mazin said where he was like, Ellie really likes this relationship where someone has to take care of her and is fighting for her, and she like you look at the comparison between her and Sarah when Joel is killing somebody, or like when Joel takes a life, Ellie's activated, she's like kind of into it. Whereas Sarah, she cries and she's sad, and there was that to me, I was like, if there's some weird fucking like sociopath aspect they try to give to Ellie in this show, I'm not into it. And I was like, I don't like the way that you said that, Craig Mazin.
I mean, I think the point he was trying to make is because Ellie grew up in this world when when action and fighting starts happening, she goes into fighter mode. She's a fighter, whereas Sarah maybe is a flee, like she's a flighter. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
even if she made it past the opening, there's no world where Sarah would have survived this world. She would have died 20 minutes later, 2 days later, 2 weeks later. She wouldn't have made it 20 years. Ellie can. And part of that is because Ellie was raised in the world and Sarah was raised in ours. But also, I think just
I guess there was just
the Sarah that they gave us here shows that Sarah was never built for this.
Right. There was just something about the phrasing that really rubbed me the wrong way. Like there's something about like I can't remember the exact words that he said, but it was something about like how Ellie is activated. She's into the idea of having this person protect and fight for her. She's like, oh yeah, do that, kill that guy. Fucking it threw me off.
I don't know what Craig said, so I have no idea. But Neil is right there with him, so I'm sure Neil would be like, no, Ellie wouldn't do that.
We steer you away from that.
I mean, there's a conversation to be made of Ellie's relationship with violence later.
Sure. In the second game.
Yeah, but in this story, no.
So very early. We've only had one episode. Do we get a Last of Us Part 2 show after this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think so too.
Oh, this is gonna make them so much money.
my one worry is Bella Ramsey is not. She doesn't look old enough to play a 19-year-old Ellie. I can see for the 14, but there's a lot of aging that can happen between 14 and 19, especially for girls.
In 2 years, 3 years, you know.
I don't know.
She'll look okay.
There's something
How old is
worrying
Bella
about
Ramsey
it
now?
to me.
Bella Ramsey's like 16 now, isn't she?
She's 17.
Yeah. So she's fine. I think she looks. I don't think she looks 14 here. I think she looks 14. I think she looks her age.
No, I think she looks 14.
I'm with.
That's just me though.
You're with Phil?
Yeah, I think she looks. I mean, age-wise, I think she's gonna be fine overall, but she doesn't look like 14.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm not saying like recast her. I'm just saying I think there's probably going to be a bigger space between the two.
Well, makeup's a hell of a thing.
That's also true, and like digital effects too. So
yeah.
I do like that for the aging up of Joel. It's like you just throw a bunch of gray in his hair. Like
that's kind of what happens in the game too. A little more wrinkle on the face, a little more gray in the hair. That's about it. So,
God damn, Pedro Pascal's doing a fucking phenomenal job.
He's doing great. I love him. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is your review of The Last of Us Episode 1. What is the name of the fucking episode? When You're Lost in the Darkness. Thank you so much for watching and listening along with us. It's a great time. Can't wait for next week. I think we're all equally excited about it. As always, we will be continuing with these review series every week until the end of the show, and then maybe we'll do a final review season and thing, or that might just be the last episode or something. I don't know. Yeah. But
I think we should just do that altogether. That's it's my opinion now.
Probably, yeah, but we just talked for over an hour about one episode, so...
Right, but the episode was an hour and a half long.
Sure.
And the first one.
And the first one. Yeah, you're right. Basically, subscribe, like, and subscribe, and watch this journey alongside with us, and let us know how you feel about it down in the comments below.
Do all the things.
Do all the things, please. Until next time, have a great time, and gentlemen, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye.
See ya.